Hello, everyone. Thank you for registering for this month's Leadership Network Q&A. We have some exciting, and I mean really interesting questions that we got from people from around. And so I want to say up front, if you want your questions to be answered on live here so that everyone can see them, or if you just want me to help you by sending a question to me directly, you have the opportunity to do that. Send all questions to info1 at RLLESSONS. That's our info1 at RL Lessons. So that's the promo out of it. Today, we are going to talk about, we have three questions. One is from a concerned employee about being recognized. One is from an HR manager who wants to step up their game and become a business partner. And the last one is really interesting because it's from a white ally who's worried about doing the wrong thing. So I'm excited to really kind of go over these, but let me give you the ground rules over this before we start. First, we start on time, we end on time. So know that this is only a 30-minute call. And also, this is a safe space where we've made a purpose of keeping this anonymous, so that people can feel really comfortable about asking their questions and hearing the answers, as well as we think the questions that people are sending in, and we've been doing this for several months, are questions that have a wider audience than just the people who happen to know me. That's one of the reasons why we opened this up to anybody who wants to come, and we created a safe space where you can sit, you can listen to the answers, or you can send in questions yourself. If you have a question, you can go into the chat, post it. My assistant, Ms. Greer, is here, and she will read the questions if we have time at the end. These are sample topics that includes anything about leading and being seen and career development. So that's the intro, guys. So, Ms. Greer, what's the first question?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So the first question that you have this week, Denise, is from someone who writes in, and they said, I'm feeling quite anxious about my upcoming performance review. I've been putting in so much effort and dedication into my work, but I'm not sure if I'm able to highlight the right accomplishments. I've been working tirelessly on a project that involves getting my team members to see we can do things better and adapt to change. However, it's been a real struggle for me to gauge whether I've made an impact or if my efforts have gone unnoticed by my boss. How can I ensure that I effectively showcase my leadership abilities during my review?
Wow. Okay. So I am ready for this one because these questions were a little bit more involved than some of the ones we've got in the past. And from the tone of the email, it sounds like this person is really anxious about wanting to do a good job and be seen as, a leader, or at least be put in a position where they can be seen as a leader. So here's what I would say in preparation for your meeting. The first thing I always tell my clients is, first of all, get clear on your goals. What is it that you really want out of this meeting? How would you know that you successfully accomplished that? The other is that in this particular case, because you're referencing a team meeting or a team project, be really clear on what the goals were for the team. State that, have that stated out, and then also, how would you quantify the impact that the team has made? So did they make their goals? Or is it a way that you can measure quantifiably as well as quantitatively, one with numbers, one with impact, feelings, perceptions, those kinds of things, that how the team was seen, as well as what did they accomplish itself. So be real clear on that and just take a note. I mean, it's okay to go into meetings and to have your notes there. So don't feel uncomfortable that you need, maybe a little cheat sheet to help you keep on track with this. In preparation for it, I would say get some examples and stories of how you contributed to team coaching. So I really want to highlight something in what you said. There's two kinds of coaching. There's the individual coaching, so me doing a one-on-one, or it's me doing a whole team, trying to get the team to work together more effectively and achieve more by working smarter, not necessarily harder, as well as managing the relationships between the team members and those people who are dependent on the work that comes out. So your question really focuses on how did you act as a team coach for this particular project. So go in with examples of how you impacted the team or how did you help them. Um, Also, think about things like how did you help the team stay focused and develop collectively as a team, not individually, but collectively as a team? How did they become one team, gel, go through, if you know the stages of a team, how did you move them through that? What was your contribution to that? Did you run interference or gather support for the team to work on the project? So, we live in organizations which are ecosystems in and of themselves. And so there's the work of the team, but there's also the work of people who are pulling at the attention of the team, or you are trying to figure out, or someone, whoever the team leader is, has to figure out how to get support for the team and prepare the organization for the work that is going to come out of the team. Did you increase the trust levels among team members? So were there conflicts? Did you act as a navigator of the conflicts or a facilitator to get people past the conflicts so that they could move to solutions? And then lastly, I would ask you, these are just things that you ask other people or ask yourself. How did you hold everyone, including yourself, accountable for delivering results? And what was the impact of what you did? So in preparation and pulling together those stories and examples, have some answers to those kinds of questions or other questions around team coaching and being a team leader. The other thing is feel free to get some feedback from other people. Ask them how they felt about the quality and quantity of the work that they did. How did they feel about your contribution as kind of the conductor of the team? Those kinds of things, so that you know what they feel and what they perceive. And sometimes people have never even thought about it. And if you were invisible to the team members, then you know that you may think you were helping them, but they weren't clear that you were helping them. And that's a level for you to learn how to grow in that process. The last thing is, I will tell everybody, I don't care if it's about this or anything else, if you are thinking about your reviews and the impact, prime the pump. Don't wait until performance review time to showcase your contributions. Talk about this in your meetings. Think about where it is you want to go. Prepare yourself using what I just said, clear goals on what you're supposed to be doing or supposed to be doing, being able to quantify it, have examples, get feedback from other people. Go in and start having those conversations early.
I love that advice, Denise. And as you're kind of talking through this, one thing that I'm curious about, I think in so many situations we relate one-on-one as individuals.
Yes.
And I just wonder if you have any tips for somebody who might be a new manager, somebody who's not used to speaking on behalf of the team, to lean towards talking about the team and the goals that they reached, the trust that was built there, versus just talking about person one or person three and kind of highlighting individuals.
Well, I think first of all, that's a great question, because there's many people. You can be a member of the team who's acting kind of as an informal facilitator. You could be the facilitator of the team, but not necessarily responsible for all of the deliverables that are there. You're just helping to facilitate, or a sponsor of a team, as well as being the team lead. I think that oftentimes what happens is if it's a manager who is the team over their particular team, the people who report directly to them, they do think about them in one-on-one. And as a manager, you have to think about it as one individual, but you also have to think about the collective output of your entire department, or the people who are working for you and entrusted with you to help clear the way so that their work gets done well. And so again, if you're the leader or the manager over a team, then sit back and just kind of do a bit of a T chart. There's the individuals and what you see their strengths are and what their contribution was to the work, to the goal. And then there's, as a team, how did they contribute to the department reaching its goals? have that cheat sheet, and then do the other things we talked about, so that when you go in to talk to your boss, or you go in to talk to, say you're the IT department and what you're trying to do, you're the head of installing a new software, or you're the head of making sure that safety, or cyber threats are cut down. Make sure that you have those two sheets, and then go talk to your customers, people who are influential in the organization, people who can persuade other folks, people who maybe their department is not living up to the standards. Get agreement, build that trust with them, so that they understand what you're contributing and then what they need to contribute, but also that you're aligning everyone around the goals and that you're listening about that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Denise. That was really helpful.
Good. What's the next question?
Here. Yeah, we'll move on to this next one here. So this person writes, it's tough being in HR sometimes. I find myself constantly yearning to be seen as a strategic partner within the organization, but it feels like an uphill battle. This is something you've heard before, Denise. Like, this is nothing new, unfortunately. They write, I want to contribute to business discussions and decisions that shape the future of our company. And so they're asking for guidance on how to have that conversation, how to express my aspirations, and how to request the resources and opportunities that I need to grow professionally. They write, I believe I have so much more to offer, and I want to break free from the perception of HR as a purely administrative function. How can I communicate my desire to evolve and contribute at a higher level without jeopardizing my current role or undermining my boss's authority? I'm glad you took notes for this one, Denise.
Well, not only did I take notes, but it also gave me the idea, because you're right, we do get this question a lot, because a number of my clients are HR people who want to get to higher levels. They want to have greater impact. They want to be able to coach and be team leaders, team coaching inside their organization. And so they come to me to learn those particular skills. So we see this same kind of feeling, not like you're contributing or can't break out of the transactional part of HR to truly be a business partner and contribute at a higher level. So in terms of answering this particular question, I take clients through, or people who work with me through, first of all, be clear on what it is that we're talking about. What is a business partner? One of the things that I find is that HR people don't have a real clear understanding in their mind of what a business partner does. So if you don't know what you're going towards and what you're trying to achieve, other than the transactional things, it's really, really easy to slide into that transactional thing. Primarily because that's where you get the most recognition from, but also a lot of the times I find managers have no clue what HR does or is capable of doing, such that as an adjunct to this, I wrote this month's blog. So I hope you're following me, and I hope you're following my page, about what that means and how do you get the line manager to allow you to have to even envision that HR could have a bigger impact than it actually does. Start there. So understand what your aspiration is and what it would look like if you actually were there. I'd also ask you to spend some time understanding, why do you think this is a threat? I found it interesting that you thought that by asking for this, you were worried about jeopardizing a relationship or jeopardizing your position or something like that. So I'd really ask you to sit back and think about what makes you think that you contributing at a higher level, enabling the organization, would actually be a threat in the organization. Once you kind of get clear on that, and if you need help, send a note, let us know how we can help you make that transition over, or to understand how to kind of put to the side this feeling of fear. Because as long as you have the feeling of fear, you're not going to step out. It's just going to be something that holds you back.
Right.
Once you're clear on that, then share your aspirations with others. Once you have a clear statement of intention, what you want to do, what value that you're going to bring by being able to do that, now you can have a conversation with people on what are their ideas, what are the problems that they see, not the what do they call symptoms of things happening. And a symptom might be my team's not achieving what I want them. They don't listen. They're late to meetings. They don't come prepared. They seem to ask me too much for me to tell them what to do. And I really like them to be freed up. I think I've talked to a few managers and coached them before. Yeah, that's true. But so that you understand what it is they want, synthesize their answers, and then now you can set goals on how you're demonstrating value to others. Make sure that they're measurable, both qualitative and quantitative. Don't forget to diagnose the relationship you have with this person. Do they trust you enough to take your advice? Do they trust you enough to be honest with you? Do they trust you enough to take to feed back to you what their real concerns are, and to let you guide them, or to be their coach? To be a coach, to be a good business partner, means that you have to have permission to give feedback and permission to help grow someone, that you're in a partnership to help them grow and be better at their skills and magnifying their skills in the organization. And the last thing under those goals, what are the actions and outcomes that you're going to do? So now comes the hard work. So take your calendar, open it up, and say, how am I going to get there? What are the things I need to do week by week by week? Say 12 weeks. I always say set 12-week goals with my clients so that they're short enough that we can see real progress, but they're long enough that we have to put some effort into and we can learn from them. And week by week, how are you mapping out where you're going to get with these individuals? If this is the first time you've done it, start with one person. Don't try to tackle too many people. Start with someone who probably you already have a relationship with and is mostly open to having you as their coach as well as their HR person. The last thing I will tell you is that it's a hard leap for anybody, not just an HR person, but managers in general. I find so many managers get stuck in the operating part, which is basically day-to-day stuff, and watching and making sure that the day-to-day gets done, that they never really get to the point where they are now coordinating efforts and or being strategic at all. And that skill, that muscle just never gets strong enough that they can begin to act in a way that they're either coordinating the work and clearing the way so their team can be better, or the strategic work and anticipating exactly what is necessary to meet the goals in the organization. So that would be my kind of sort of quick answer. What do you think?
Oh, Denise, I love that you compare it to a muscle. It's like, in some ways, it's like, yeah, the good thing about that is that it's something that can be improved over time. And it's something that people can practice at and get better at. And I think, to your point, knowing which goals to pick that would actually impact the organization. I mean, I feel like that's half the work, and then having that trust established as well.
And it's focus. If you don't have a clear focus, you're not going to make progress against it. It's like without focus, it's like trying to rope, right? You can't push it into a straight line. You can, it just doesn't work, and you work so much harder.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
What's next? We got
all right,
less than 15 minutes.
Yep. So this last one here, it's another big one. This person writes, there's something that's been bothering me for a while, and I feel it's affecting my ability to communicate effectively at work. My team is incredibly diverse with members from different cultural backgrounds, and I genuinely want to foster a sense of inclusion and collaboration. However, I often find myself struggling to bridge the cultural gaps. I worry that my messages may not resonate with everyone, or worse, unintentionally offend someone due to miscommunication or lack of cultural awareness. It's frustrating because I genuinely want to create a welcoming and inclusive environment, but I feel limited by my own cultural blind spots. How can I develop my global and cultural effectiveness skills to become a more culturally sensitive communicator?
As I said early on, this one was a kind of thing.
I know. I'm like, I feel like they're communicating quite effectively in this message. So I'm like, there's some points for that, you know?
What's really going on, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And so that's kind of what it is. But I first want to acknowledge that I I really am sorry that you feel uncomfortable about your ability to do that, because when I hear it, when I read this question, you're really clear about what it is you want to do and where you want to go. And there's something that's causing you to be uncomfortable. And again, like I told the previous person, I think you need to sit and examine that, because sometimes I think it may be coming from you don't want to make a mistake, you don't want to alienate someone, and that's just Denise talking here. But it could be something else about how you feel about being accepted and being right, or being criticized or something like that. But so kind of do a little bit of introspection on why are you uncomfortable for this. And here's why I say that. You focus this question on working with someone who's different than you, and trying to be an ally to other individuals or cultures or people with different abilities. There, would you have the same question if this was a white person and they were new to you? How would you think about making a friendship there? Even if it's another white person, they're very different than you. They have different backgrounds, different cultural experiences. They have different ways of doing things. And for the most part, the way you develop a friend there is that you ask questions to understand who they are. What are they doing? What does it look like? I don't want you to feel like you're putting the burden on someone who's culturally different. But I do think that you ought to think about how would you develop a relationship with someone who's white, who's different than you are. Maybe, yeah, I live in the South now, so I was born and bred in Chicago. So leaving Chicago, every place I went, I was culturally different, not just because I'm a woman and Black, but living in Chicago, way different than living in anywhere else. And so I had to be open to hearing what is it that people like to do, why do they like to do it, and to be curious about who they are. Now, obviously, if you've gone to a diversity program or anything like that, they tell you to learn more about other cultures. You can do that by watching movies or TV shows about culturally different or groups, or you can read about it, or you can develop the kind of friendship that is trusting, so that you can. I also know that right now people are talking about having diversity fatigue. And I think diversity fatigue comes from a position of we've been on this road for, over 50 years. And yet we don't feel like, in the broader sense, that things are changing. And I think people in general are just fatigued, because I think because change is coming so quickly, I don't think we feel like we make a difference and that what we do matters. And so what we're doing is shrinking and trying to feel good in our own little spaces, instead of really stepping out and saying, how would I know I was making a difference in a bigger way? And I think that's a conversation all of us should have, regardless of whether you're a white ally or a person of color or some other person who feels like they are part of a marginalized group. Because if the problems and the issues we have, I think, this is a Deniseism, fundamentally come from the fact that we don't feel like we can have deep relationships and friendships without making mistakes and alienating people, or we're in such a cancel culture. If I say the wrong thing, I'm going to get in trouble. And I think we have to examine that and say, that is a barrier that keeps us from actually being closer, about having a better life in general. I heard, and one of the
Amen.
things we'll do is drop Deetra's Giles's webinar that we did recently on Leadership Global, where she and I had a pretty deep conversation with other people who were happy to be on camera, about what it means to move from being an ally and historically why there's such a barrier and defensiveness and concern on the part of white people for being an ally versus shifting it to what if we were thinking about it as an allegiance? And what are the risks and rewards of if we shift it to how do we create alliances such that we're moving towards a more equitable environment across? And so I would, under that, we talked about things of what are your motives? What are you willing to risk? Because the risk is real for, if you're white and saying that you want to be an ally, or you want to be part of this movement for equality, the risks are real. And that you could be ostracized. And in some cases, in our history, people were killed for helping marginalized and indigenous people because of that. And so that's part of your history that you carry forward. Today, it's, being criticized openly or, just not really respected and being subjective to bullying because you've made that decision. And so I think you have to consciously bring to point what are you willing to risk and what does this mean in the environment that you currently work in. I think it is admirable that you felt comfortable enough. I am so humbled that you sent the question to me, particularly at this time. And if you feel this way, let's talk. Let's have a conversation or reach out. I can point you to other people who are feeling the same way and are skilled enough to help you move through this in a way that you feel safe and that you feel like you can be included as well as you're impactful. So I know I'm running out of time, but those are my words and I hope, or my thoughts and advice, all that good stuff. And I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Denise. This has been a really helpful conversation. Where can people keep up with you?
Well, the easy part is every month we are right here. If you can't make it, then the recordings are always on LinkedIn, I believe. And now we're going to be putting them on YouTube. So you'll be able to listen to them at YouTube. And you can always email me at info1 at rllessons.com. And lastly, Ms. Greer and I have been studying these particular questions. Most of the time she gives them to me kind of blindsided and I have to answer off the cuff. But these were so impactful questions from people. And we felt that they were so heartfelt and that people were just, this meant something to you. And so I just want to say, I am so honored that you would help participate in this process of not only you getting something, but giving value to other people. Because I promise you, whatever the question is, whatever it is that you're working on, there are thousands of people who are in the same boat, but don't know how to ask for help. And they don't want to be singled out. So by you having the ability and wherewithal to send us the questions, you help not only yourself, but you help so many other people who get to see this. And frankly, you make me better. And I really appreciate you contributing to me getting to a higher level. So do we have any comments and any additional questions? We have about 2 minutes left and then we're off until next month.
Yeah, thank you so much, Denise. This has been a really great conversation. And you're right, these questions are super heartfelt. You can tell people are, I mean, everyone's kind of going through it in their own way. But what I think what I appreciate most is that I'm really hearing from you that we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be intentional.
Yes.
And we have to put thought into how we show up in the world and how we build relationships and who we build relationships with. Because when I think about the 3 questions you talked about today, it's like those relationships are the core of all of those.
Yeah. Yeah. Relationships give us the authority and permission to be in relationship with people and to make mistakes and know that they won't judge us harshly. So it's the key. Oh, my goodness. We're at the end of the broadcast. I, again, so appreciate each and every last one of you. And we will see you next month. Bye.
Bye, everyone.